Hi everyone, welcome back. Today's video is about how I'm managing the van build work. Converting a cargo van into a camper van is no trivial thing, especially if you've never done it before. Since I used to be an Agile coach, I thought I'd fall back on things that I knew from that job. I'm going to start this video by giving you 30 seconds of Agile context. Then we're going to jump right in. I'm going to show you my Kanban board, and I'm also going to show you one other application that I use to manage all this build work. I don't know how other people do their build work or manage their build work. I might be the first person to actually do it the Kanban way. Let's jump in. Agile is an umbrella term. Agile is an iterative approach to project management. There are a number of different Agile frameworks shown here. Last I read, I think there were about 42 in the industry. Some of the more popular frameworks are Scrum, XP, Kanban, and SAFe. You may have heard of Scrum. That's probably the most popular. Today we're going to focus on Kanban. That's actually the framework that I've chosen to use to manage my van build. Kanban is a Japanese word that simply means sign or visual cue. So let's take a look. Here's my guest bedroom, and on this wall, if we close the door and zoom out a little bit, you'll see that I've created a Kanban board. My board is very simple. I've got 4 columns. That's my to-do, and we call that a backlog. The next column is up next, and this one is doing, and this one is done, and we've got a little guy celebrating there. And if we start here, you can see some of the things that, I did early on. I bought tires, I had to remove the old floor. If you see a different color card, that's work that I have that's outside of the van work, but maybe, requires a bigger effort. And then some of the more recent things I've done, the last installation I did was the roof rack before it got cold. And I bought my water pump recently, so they tend to be down over here. These are the first things that I finished. Things that I'm currently working on now, I'm trying to decide if I'll be using 80/20 extruded aluminum or wood for some of the framing. I'm taking a close look at batteries and deciding which ones I want to buy. Logos, that I'm working on that. I always have create a video that stays here because, every time I'm doing something every 2 weeks, I'm typically creating a video on that subject. The van build is very complex, and a lot of times I'll just come sit on the bed and, stare at this wall. I've watched a video and I'll throw a bunch of Post-its up in there. This board has really helped me organize all the work. There's a lot of interdependencies. I've talked about that in other videos. You have to do this before this. A lot of the work I don't even know how to do. So if I'm not sure how to do something, I'll go ahead and put a research item up here. And we call those, in the Agile world, we call those enabler, because they enable you. You do some research, you learn a little bit, and then it enables you to do the next step. A lot of the other activities that are up here that might be enablers are something like where I have to buy a product. So I got to buy it before I can install it. So there's a lot of activity here. The other thing that I've done is I've segregated the work really into 3 main areas: prep, inner shell, and outer shell. And I did that based on videos that I had seen other people working. It was a nice way. So if there's things I'm working on the outside of the van or things that I'm working on the inside of the van, I'll mark these. We call these stories or cards, but I'll mark them in that way. If we take a look at that, installation, for example, that's inner shell, and I've marked it as a medium effort. Some of these efforts help me understand how big the work is when I'm thinking about trying to get something done in, say, a 2-week time period. So here's inner shell, and that's a small. A small for me is maybe a day's worth of work. Yeah, I'd say about a day. And here, running all the wire, that's both inner shell and outer shell, and that's large. I've never, done that before, and that's going to be very complex. There's going to be a lot of different types of wire that I'm running. So that's just one of the things that I've done to help me plan as I'm going. A lot of times I'll put related subjects together. Here I had to decide if I was going to do gas or electric, stove and water. And then once I knew that, I could also research and buy the stove. And actually, both of these are done now. So we move them over to the done column and we get a little bit of gratification. And it's funny, I was thinking that these sticky notes wouldn't stay on my wall and that I was going to have to transfer this to some electronic, version, but it's actually worked really well. They've stayed up here and it's been over a year, and I'm constantly moving things around, so it's worked great. And for any of my Agile coach friends who are watching, this is just high level. It's not a deep dive into Agile, but I am stealing some of the Agile practices. You'll see it, and you're all probably going, oh my God, she's nuts. She does Agile at home. But when I was working with all of you, I said that, I really supported this, and I'll show you some of the other tools that I use. This works. It's working for me. One of the biggest things that I was worried about with the van build is you see a lot of videos where people start and they stop. They get sick of it. I've seen videos of women crying. So anyway, for me, I needed something that could just help me keep my work flowing, and Kanban is all about continuous flow. So, I'll put something over here and I'll flow it through, and I can rearrange things. I can change the order. And so for me, it's worked really well, and it just helps me not get burnt out. And it also helps me keep, some good progress going. This is another tool that I'm using really for most of the details. It's OneNote for Windows 10. And when I'm watching a video or, looking at something I found on the internet, basically I'll capture those details in here. It lets you have multiple books, if you will. The one that we're looking at now is the van build, and then within the books you can have different pages, and you can add or delete pages. When I bought the van back in September of 2020, I actually created a page, how I feel, and you can see some comments about, how I was feeling that day. Initially I watched videos and I wrote down all the tools that I needed to have or which ones I already owned so I could figure out what I needed to buy. I've got the van measurements in here. So when I'm looking at things, these are actually the manufacturer measurements. So that helps me, with a lot. As I've been looking at layouts, I've saved pictures of other layouts that I like and things that I've seen other people do, and maybe I want to incorporate them into my build. So this tool's been great. It lets you save links, links out to YouTube videos, links out to web pages. I take notes in here. I've got a lot of measurements in here. You can kind of see all the different topics that every time I'm stumbling across something, I'm throwing a note out. It has a search tool, and so I can search through, find things that, I knew I put in here, but I can't find them. So between Kanban and this tool, those are probably my primary tools that I'm using to manage the van build. So there it is. Now you know all my van conversion project management tips and tricks. If you liked this video, leave your like and don't forget to hit that subscribe button too. See you later.